What's the deal with VGC? Look, I asked this because I've been playing it recently, and well, has anyone tonight ever actually spoken to a VGC play before? Anyone here? Well, my condolences. Like, I kid, but they just go on and on about how it's the best way to play Pokemon, but the game didn't exist for the first 13 years of Pokemon's history, you know? Like, singles, been around since day one, you know? And then you ask them why VGC, like, why is it so much better? It's what you want to know, it makes sense. And then they always say, oh, well, there's more Pokemon, therefore there's more skill factors involved. But, hello? Triple battles? Heartbreaker Charles might finally be vindicated, is all I'm saying. Alrighty, sports fans, and we're back with another mediocre example of content. I'm Keith, and this is a draft breakdown, a classic Keith draft breakdown, where we're going to break down a draft, break down with my mental health, and then never fucking record another video for this league until the next one. You know. Anyway, we have, we're in VBL this time. It's season 11, I think, of the VBL. This is my first time playing it. It's a VGC League, by the way. And I've got my pretty new logo, Ursa Ring That Bell, which is fucking adorable. Credit to Youssef for doing it. And yeah, so VBL, what is it? Well, it stands for... I don't actually know what VBL stands for. I'm gonna say Victorian Battle Lounge. And it is a sorry, I think I'm haunted or something. A Gen 9 VGC League, and they did something a little bit different this season, actually, in terms of drafting, which is kind of what drew me to it. I mean, Electric, everyone's favorite co-host on this channel, because he's the only other fucker who's ever on this channel, besides Fate, but he's been pimping this league for a while, but they basically have a very different way of drafting. It's the future of Pokemon Draft. It's filling out some fucking forms. Basically you had the tier list. The tier list, by the way, went up to 27 as the maximum amount of points for Pokemon. Not just like 19 or 20, 21 like some of the leagues. 27. So the top tier Pokemon like, you know, Fluttermane, Urshifu Rapid, Chien-Pao, those all cost 27 points. That's a lot of points, I'm gonna be honest with you. And it was a 110 draft budget again. But how this one worked is that you actually fill out a form. Yeah, so let me explain. Instead of a typical draft where it was a bit of a snake draft, you know, you draft the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, yada yada yada, and it kind of sneaks around in order. Instead of that, they kind of scrapped that, and instead you filled out this form where basically everyone had the chance to fill out what they wanted to pick. They filled out what round it is, so for this hypothetical one, I've gone, okay, it's round 6, and I'm not repicking. And I want Meganium, and I'm going to spend an extra 6 points on Meganium. So what that means is you type out your pick, and if you're the only person that wanted that Pokemon that round, you get it. It's just yours. If other people wanted it as well, then basically whoever decided to spend the most on the what would you be willing to pay if this person or another coach also wanted it thing gets it. So let's say my Meganium, it's 5 points. I go for it, and someone else wants it, but they only are willing to pay an extra 2 points for it, then it would go to me. But it would cost that extra amount of points. So this 5-point Meganium would now cost 11 points. It's kinda crazy how that can work. And if, for example, I get outbid on Meganium, there's the backup pick. And I've gone Ursaring for +1. So if Ursaring is, let's say, 9 points, and no one else wants it, I get it. If someone wanted Ursaring, you don't have to put any extra points on it, but, you know, if someone else wanted it, but they didn't put any extra points on it, I get Ursaring. If I get outbid on both Meganium and Ursaring here, then I just repick again. And if two people tie on the same, let's say my Meganium and another coach, we both won a Megani, we both put +6. Meganium now becomes 11 and 11-point mon on the roster. So it's sounds a bit complicated. Basically, it's just filling out forms, and it does mean drafts can go a fair bit quicker. And it also eliminates the first place option of, like, the first place and last place and mid pick sort of advantage of drafts, where the middle pick always kind of felt like, you know, you had the worst of both worlds, or like first and last picks of the draft kind of got, you know, they got to really plan a lot better. Actually experiencing this though, I kind of felt like my ability to plan, it was tough. You really had to focus, and it took a lot of analysis. And whilst I enjoyed it, I could really see that it's not everyone's cup of tea. I don't know if it's going to catch on, but I think it's worth the experiment. Yeah, because there is that whole mind game of how much do you want to upbid, and so I think some people it completely screwed over. I don't think it actually affected me at all. I think I only wanted Pokemon that no one else wanted. I picked a bunch of losers. Yeah. Well, speaking of the first loser, we've got Charlie Kelly, the Ursaluna Blood Moon. The theme for this one is that they're all named after characters in American live-action sitcoms. So we got Charlie Kelly from Always Sunny, and you know, slightly related, I just watched season 15, the last episode of that. Holy shit, Charlie Day, the Charlie actor, he can act. Like, I was actually crying at an Always Sunny bit, it's insane. But, we'll actually talk about the Pokemon here. Ursaluna Blood Moon is fucking ridiculous. This is one of the most ridiculously strong Pokemon I think I've ever seen in my life. 130 HP, 120 defense, 65 SPDF. So bad SPDF, but really good Fizz Def, a really good HP stat. And the HP stat's good enough that it can probably tank a couple of special hits, and you can slap an Assault Vest. There's Calm Mind and stuff to set up. But this fucking thing, 135 Spatak, normal ground, and its ability is like it can hit ghosts. It's like Scrappy and it can't lose accuracy. That's fucked. And then it also has its signature move Blood Moon, which I think is 140 base power. And the drawback is it can't use it twice in a row. What the fuck do you do to beat this thing? It's a lot better than I think regular Ursaluna, because regular Ursaluna kind of relies on statusing itself and chipping itself. But this Pokemon is just, it doesn't need to status itself. And also, there's no real counterplay. You can't become a ghost type to get through this. It just beats you anyway. Like, what you need is you need to have like a levitate Pokemon become a steel or rock type. But even then, I think this has Focus Blast. Yeah, it's really tough to actually wall this thing. And it also does actually have setup options. It's got Calm Mind and it has Moonlight as well. Two pretty, like, so a good setup option, but also like a healing option. There's actually a lot of ways to go with this thing. This thing works, like with its 52 speed, it actually is really good for both Trick Room, and it can kind of work in Tailwind. If you only set it up, it's definitely not as good though. But also you can just kind of, it can just hit things, because it's not going to die in 2 hits, like, if you've got good support around it. Like, if you put it behind screens or something, it's really just going to claim kills. It's also got Vacuum Wave, I should mention. So it's got strong, special attacking coverage. Powerful Pokemon. I'm really happy I got it. I got it at 24, no one else wanted it. I wanted an Ursaluna as my mascot pick. So I put in this, and the backup one was regular Ursaluna. And I'm very glad I got this one. It's fucking crazy. Like, I'm really excited to get to use it. It's a new toy, and it's great. Then my next Pokemon that I got was Iron Hands. Iron Hands was one of those 27 pointers, and I kind of put it in, and I didn't put any extra points on it. I'm just like, whatever. I'm gonna go for Iron Hands, and if I don't get it, fine. I'll go for Cresselia. assuming I'd get Cresselia, because who gets around fucking 2 Iron Hands? But apparently it's me. So yeah, look, this Pokemon kind of similar to it's similar to the Ursaluna in a few ways. Tons of HP, tons of defense, not much speed F, but again, it's not a bad number, but a big attack stat. Iron Hands is a fucking menace. I think everyone who has ever played VGC in Gen 9 can vouch for that. This thing fucks. Like, fake. Like, it's just so strong and so bulky. It's so good. And I think with both it and Ursaluna, I think they've got pretty complementary sort of stabs. And I really think that you can't wall them both. I don't think you can. Like, I just don't think it's possible to be able to effectively wall and knock out both Pokemon. I'm fairly sure, though I can't say I'm 100%, but I'm fairly sure it's a pretty common strat, I think. Wait, is it? I remember seeing somewhere that they had some usage together. Like on ladder and stuff. So that's pretty cool. Like, I've got a ladder opening too. Look, it did eat up most of my points. I think it was 27 and 24. That is, let me just do the math here, 51 points, and I've got a 110 budget. It's a bit rough on the old budget, but this shit's so fucking strong. It's just so strong, it's crazy. Oh yeah, by the way, I should also mention for this we had to draft, I think, 12 Pokemon? Or 11 Pokemon? I don't remember. Count along at home, but we had to draft X amount of Pokemon. So, it did actually have negatives for being top-heavy, and this team, right now, is fucking top-heavy. But I think it's top-heavy in a good way, because it just really has 2 Pokemon that I think, like, the thing is, I'm just going to talk about, I think, my sort of hypotheses on Gen 9 in general. I think the power creep is so fucked that for a format like Draft, you kinda almost have to be a bit top-heavy, because if you try to be balanced, you're just gonna get run over. Like, that's just kinda how I feel. Like, you think of the power level they pushed Pokemon in this gen. It's insane, right? Like, it is insane. And that's why I kind of felt like, you know, I should go for Iron Hand, just because, you know, it's just, they just run over teams. Like, I really think the 27 point Mons are probably worth 27 points in the right team, because I think they just invalidate and bully and run over every other team that's like every other sort of playstyle. It's crazy. That's just sort of my general thoughts, I think, on VGC in the draft in Gen 9. Like, I don't love what Gen 9's brought to draft, I think it's fair to say, just because I think the Pokemon are too good, and it's kind of really becoming a big issue, but, you know, I'm going to take advantage of it. Anyway, this is Michael Booth, by the way, after Arrested Development. It is a comedy series I've watched over and over and over and over again. Love it to death. Great show, and a great mon. Anyway, a next thing that I got, like, I had these 2 Pokemon, both, you know, both pretty low speeds, 50 and 52, kind of slow, so it's like, I need a Trick Room setter. And what's a great Trick Room setter that can support these 2, but can also do some other shit, and that's Mimikyu. Good old Jerry Seinfeld. By the way, the entire reason I did this video was because I got the Jerryisms as a joke in my head and decided I had to fucking do it. So, if you want to know why this draft breakdown's happening, playing this little shit. Yeah, Mimikyu, I mean, you know, what can I say? This thing sets Trick Room so reliably, it's ridiculous, because it doesn't get killed by anything, because of its ability to disguise. So it's really hard for stuff to actually kill it. So what that means is you need to rely on Taunt or Imprison to actually beat it, but not every Pokemon is Taunt or Imprison, and there are ways around that. Yeah, I just thought it was really good. I think it's going to be really good support with the other Pokemon that I have, the Iron Hands or the Ursaluna Blood Moon, and it kind of puts people in a tricky situation where they want to double target Mimikyu, but oftentimes they can't kill it, and even if they can, and they do, they double target Mimikyu, and then it's like, okay, but now you've been punched in the face by an Ursaluna or something like that. Like, it's got Makar Mind off, it's clicked Blood Moon and killed your guy, it's clicked Hyper Voice and chipped you know, you guys, that sort of thing. Yeah, it's really an excellent Trick Room call, those three, and I felt like it destroyed my budget, but it really did put me in a really good stand. Like, I just think that those four are fucking crazy to go. Yeah. So, I said four, but I meant three. Those three are crazy to go, and I think it's gonna come to a lot of games. Sorry, I gotta stop myself from yawning. Why do I keep recording this so late at night? Oh, that's right, I've got a fucking job. You know. Good old capitalism. Anyway, what's the deal with Trick Room? Yeah, like, genuinely, I'm watching Steinfeld currently, and I don't know why it's so good, but it's so good. Granted, my favorite character, and it's actually George. Whenever George has, like, got a bee in his bonnet about a specific thing, it's fucking hilarious, but, yeah, I don't know, I just felt like this looked like a Jerry Seinfeld to me. Don't ask me why. Anyway, bought Pokemon. So I had two big attackers, a kind of a supporter, but like also Pokemon that can attack. And I felt like, you know what, I should get a Redirector and a Tailwind, just in case I do want a fast mode option. So I decided to pick the GOAT Pokemon in this gen. The Pokemon that can do absolutely everything you want him to do in this generation, and that's your boy Jumpluff. I'm really high on Jumpluff in this gen. I'm really high on fucking Skiploom in this gen. I'm high on Hoppip in this gen. This Pokemon is really fucking good. So it is like, I just really like this Pokemon because it basically has every possible support option you'd really want in a Pokemon like this. Like, obviously you look at its stats and it's not great, but it's fast and has, like, you know, okay-ish bulk, but it's a very fast Tailwinder. It's got Chlorophyll to boost its speed on specific anti-sun matchups. It's a very fast dual screen setup. It is it's got Sleep Powder, it's got Rage Powder for redirection, it's got Strength Sap, it's got Pollen Puff for offensive defensive capabilities and capacity, it's got U-Turn to be able to sort of pivot in and out, it's got Memento if it wants to, like, you know, kill itself to destroy the enemy's stats or something. Like, genuinely, I think it's got Taunt even. Every single support move you kind of really want. Oh, it's got Helping Hand. Like, there's just so much shit that this Pokemon has that's really good for helping its team achieve things. A lot of people really just look at this one like it's a fast Tailwinder, and obviously I think that is its best role, but a lot of the times it's just great at everything else. Like the Sleep Powder, the screens, the Rage Powder, sorry, the Helping Hand, the Pollen Puffs, the general statusy. It's just a great Pokemon, really. And I think it's actually going to help a lot in a lot of matchups, even if it's just something as simple as it doesn't come, but my opponent has to bring safety goggles instead of a more useful item on something. You know, like, I think this is a Pokemon that does really require prep and requires a lot of respect, and does enable, if my team does want to be go fast, or if I draft fast mode later, it really enables that, I think. Yeah, so that's Jumpluff, Larry David. I haven't actually seen Curb Your Enthusiasm, but, you know, this Pokemon is really passive, but I felt like I could afford it because, you know, I've got a Saluna, Blood Moon, and Iron Hands. And even Mimikyu, like, it's not exactly a powerhouse, but it's got 2 pretty good stabs. So, and like, decent, like, 90, I think, base attack, so... it can hit stuff. Yeah, it can hit stuff. Oh god, the yawnies. Alrighty, but my next Pokemon, I don't even remember what I drafted next. Look, I had used up most of my points, so I really had to budget. But my next... spoilers! Okay, my next one... Oh, it's Copperajah. So basically, I drafted the first 3, I'm like, okay, that's a reliable core. It's not like... I don't think I've ever really used them in draft before. Especially in VGC draft. I've used, like, Mimikyu in singles draft. So I decided to go to my old reliables. So I got Jumpluff. That's cool. That's... you know, king, reliable. And I've got Jermaine Clement the Copperajah, another reliable. I think I've showed everyone what my opinion of Copperajah is, but just in case, insert Trump clip here.
Boy, they're big.
Big guy.
Big guy.
Big guy.
He's your big guy in town, folks.
Big guy. Strong, tough. Strong man, big, tough guy.
This is a big, tough guy. A very, very powerful guy. Big, strong guy.
Big, strong guy.
Big, strong guy.
This big, strong guy comes to me.
He's big, he's strong.
Okay, that should be enough time. He is a big guy. He is a strong guy. Yeah, I just like using this Pokemon. It's my comfort mon, really. I don't know why this became my comfort mon. To be honest, it's... So there's this concept that I've been working on, and it's called boys, right? And, like, boys is in, like... you know, in a sport, in wrestling, in competitive Pokemon, in MMA, in whatever. There's a category of Pokemon, of human, of competitor, called the boy. And that is someone that isn't that great, but has stuff going for him, and you kind of like it despite its flaws, you know? Like, I don't follow American sports, so it's hard to sort of get an approximation, but like, Copperajah is a great example of a boy. Like, it's got some positive qualities, it's got a lot of negative qualities, and it's a pretty average Pokemon, but I quite like it. But about its positive qualities, it's a steel type, that's pretty good in terms of matchups. It's got 130 attack and sheer force. Now it's got an okay moveset for sheer force. It's got Iron Head and it's got Rock Slide, which is like fine, I guess, because it's not flinching anything unless it's under Trick Room. But if it's under Trick Room, it still probably just wants to hit things. I don't know. I'm actually going to look something up here. I don't know if it got high horsepower back, because it was quite... It got high horsepower back. That's good. So it's actually gotten a lot... Like, it actually lost a fair bit of coverage before, but it got a lot of them back in the DLC. So I think it's got Heat Crash back. It's got Play Rough. It's got high horsepower. Like, that's really quite good. It does have Body Press if you want to run, like, some sort of set like that. Like, you know, Iron Defense, Body Press, but I don't know if this is the exact Pokemon for it. It doesn't have the best defensive stats. It's got its HP, I guess, but, you know, it's got Knockoff as well. Like, it's got a lot of really good moves. Well, like, not a lot of really good moves, but enough moves, and it's got a high attack stat. And you know what? It's got a pretty functional special attack stat with Sheer Force. I have run Special Copperajah more times than I want to admit, and it has worked more times than you'd think. Even though it doesn't have the best special coverage, 80 base power is like 80 special attack sheer force. Like, that's more special attack than Nidoqueen, for example, and Nidoqueen can hit pretty hard. Like, sheer force is kind of crazy. But yeah, it's also just got like heavy metal as well, so it can just heavy slam, and it's very hard to outweigh this thing. But again, I think Gen 1 was really fucking weird with weights. Like, I think they went kind of crazy with weights, where some stuff's way too heavy, some stuff's way too light. Like, I think Dondozo's, like, not heavy at all. Oh well. Like, this has less power whip in the generation still, it hasn't gotten that back, and that's a bit sad, but yeah. I think this spawn is pretty good, and I think it was about 8 points or something? Steel. Also, it's another with 30 speed. great Trick Room option, really. Like, you know, just another piece of the Trick Room puzzle, you know? So we're talking about VGC, and like what I'm talking about is building sets for VGC, you know. Now Pokemon, as we all know, Pokemon can have 4 move cycles, right? Wrong. In VGC they got 3 moves, and then they got Protect last. It's always Protect! It doesn't matter what the Pokemon is, doesn't matter what the items are, what the ability is. I could be running an Assault Vest or a choice item. I just want to run Protect. What if they knock me off? Even though I'm making fun of it now, a voice in my head is going, yeah, you know what, Keith, that's a good idea. What if they do knock off your Assault Vest? You know, you want to Protect in case they bring Fake out. It's just... that's what VGC does to your mind, man! But speaking of Trick Room, I needed to go cheap, and I need another setter, so I picked Hatchram. I was actually debating between Mimikyu and Hatterene for a little bit. Which one do I want? And for the Mimikyu pick, I actually had Hatterene as the backup. But when I got Mimikyu, and I need a second Trick Room setter, and I needed a cheap Trick Room setter, I'm like, well, how about base form Hatterene? Hatchram. Well, not base form, there's Hitini or whatever it's called. Hatchram is, you know, it's another really good Trick Room setter, actually, despite its points. I think it was only 3 points. But it's got Magic Bounce, so it can't be taunted. And it's not got great defenses, but it can hold Eviolite, I guess. Yeah, like, it just kind of is a cheap option. It's got a decent special attack stat, but it's not blowing anything away with it. Really, it's just Magic Bounce is pretty good for, like, you know, if they're trying to run, like, a taunt set or a raw set to stop Mimikyu, then Hatchram can actually set it up pretty effectively. So it's a nice little mix-up. It's also got Nuzzle, which is just, like, kind of a really good move. And then, does it actually even have Moonblast? I don't think this Pokemon or this line has Moonblast. So I was going to say it has Moonblast, but no, it doesn't. Does it have Knock? It might have Knock. I don't remember. Regardless, it's got Mystical Fire? Yeah, it's got Mystical Fire. But yeah, like this Pokemon, it just kind of does things somewhat reliably. Again, it's a 3-point Pokemon. I don't think it's going to come that much, but there will be some games where it comes, and I think it'll actually pull its weight because, as I said, there's a lot of mix-ups it can do. Well, I mean, it can mix up stuff like, fairly sure Magic Bounce works for a while. I'm fairly sure. It's been a while since I played with Magic Bounce. But our next Pokemon, we needed something fast. We needed a fast boy. And I picked Inteleon. Oh yeah, I should say. So Jermaine Clement is from Flight of the Conchords. Great. It's like a New Zealand comedy pairing, and then they got a HBO show for some fucking reason. Really good show. I recommend watching it. Some great comedic songs that are actually bangers. Unlike a lot of fucking comedy songs where they're just like not good. Like, I do not like, oh, what were they called? The guys that said I'm on a boat. Like, it wasn't a good song. Anyway, then we have Rose from Golden Girls. Haven't seen it. And we've got Michael Scott the Inteleon. He just looks like Michael Scott. Inteleon, I needed a fast Pokemon and I needed a strong special attacker. And I think Inteleon fit that really well. So, the thing with Inteleon is 120, great speed stat in this meta. And it has something that's actually quite rare for offensive water types in this generation. And that's decent single target attacks. Like, it has both Scald and the, what's its unique ability? The, forget what its unique, Snipe Shot? Snipe Shot? Yeah, Snipe Shot. So 2 actually good special attacking single target water moves, because, I don't know if you guys know, but like the removal of, I mean, you probably do. The removal of Scald has really hurt water types offensively I felt in this generation in VGC, because they can't hit things reliably if they're a special attacker. Like, what special attacking, like, because there's, like, Surf, obviously, it's both Pokemon. It's your partner Pokemon. Muddy Water is a spread move and doesn't have the greatest distribution. So it's just like, it's just tough for strong special attacking waters, but Inteleon has both Scald and Snipe Shot. It's kind of crazy. It's also just got like Ice Beam, Air Slash, Icy Wind, like a fast Icy Wind is good on this team. It's also got dual screens as well, so like that can be used. It's got a fast Taunt. It's got, I think it's got some priority in Vacuum Wave, but really it's just a strong, fast Pokemon that I think could be used in a sort of faster build, in a Tailwind build, something like that. Yeah, like really, I just think it kind of complements the team pretty well. I'm really happy to get it for what I got it for. I think it was my last big spender Pokemon, but yeah, no, like I just think it's great. And I don't know if the Focus Energy set is real. I might try it one. Wait, does this shit even get Focus Energy in this gen? Is Focus Energy still a fucking move? Let me have a look. I'm actually gonna look at this. Focus Energy is still a move, but Inteleon does not get it. Never mind. Okay. Well, you know. Wait, did it get it last gen? It did, okay. Well, you know, Scope Lens is still fine. Torrent's okay. But yeah, like, this is kind of frail though, which is a bit worrying, but, you know, I think it can still work. I think it's still a decent Pokemon. I think that it's definitely going to have its matchups. Anyway, the next, and it's Michael Scott, obviously, Office, I think I said that. Next Pokemon, Fraser Crane, the Bombardier. Haven't seen Fraser or, Cheers, but look at that name. Bombardier, it was 5 points, and I thought that was incredibly cheap for Bombardier, to be honest. Because, well, it can't be said it's a great Pokemon. It's not a bad Pokemon. Like, it's got some bulk to it. It's not great, but it's a second Tailwind user. It's actually got Stab Rock moves with its ability Rocky Payload, which is pretty interesting. It's got Knockoff as well, which is pretty neat. It's actually got, it's got U-Turn, but it's got Taunt, it's got Tailwind. I think it just is a unique offensive and defensive typing for this team, and I think it can do some stuff in some games. Yeah. So, look, I don't have that much to say about this Pokemon. It's also got Icy Wind, but it's not that fast, but, like, I guess it can do something with it. Really, it's just got, like, a decent attack stat and some pretty good offensive type combination stuff. So, yeah, no, it's a new mon that I haven't actually used, but I think it's probably good on this team because I think, like, if it sets Tailroom or Tailroom is set for it, I think it can cause a decent amount of damage. Like, 103 attack Brave Birds is a very strong move in this meta, and yeah, I don't know. Alrighty, next Pokemon we hit, like, now we're getting to the real cheap stuff here. Like, the real cheapies. Hello? Oh, okay, my computer froze for a second. We got Chris, who everyone hates. Is that the next one? Yeah, Chris, who everyone hates, the Reboot. I know there were spoilers for the next one, but shush. Reboot, it's 2-pointer, because at this point I think I had 6 points from the last 3 Pokemon. Reboot, it was 2 points, and it's actually surprisingly strong Pokemon if you look at those stats, like 86 attack, 94 speed, and then it's got, I think it's got Flare Blitz, yeah it does, and it's got High Jump Kick, so and with Libero, it's actually going to hit really strong with that High Jump Kick. Granted, High Jump Kick in the meta, in the Protect meta, isn't a great idea, but, you know, it's fine. It's also got Gong Shot, I don't know, Helping Hand, like, kind of fastest Taunt. Really, it's just a usable 2-pointer, I think, is the play here. Like, there are some games where I could maybe bring it. It's kind of fast. Yeah, there's definitely worse options for 2 points. I didn't have much else to say here, to be honest. Then we got Sheldon Cooper the Swallow, because, you know, Big Bang Theory. Nerd reference. Look, I just needed a defensive poison type, I think. It's got sticky hold, so it can't lose its item. It's got knockoff. It's got toxic spikes. It's got thunder wave, like yawn, clear smog. It's got some stuff. It's got its matchups as well, I guess. I just don't think it's going to come that often. Yeah, like, it's just, look at its stats. It's so mediocre, but you know, it's fine. Again, yeah, it's got toxic, I guess, which is kind of cool. Yeah, no, it's just a Pokemon that I think is only going to come in some specific matchups, but that's what these low pointers are. And the last Pokemon is Mr. William Smith from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. The Nuzleaf, look, this is a 1-pointer. It's kind of an afterthought. Really, what this thing is going for is it's got Chlorophyll and it's got Fake Out. So if I play Sun teams, it can actually get a really fast Fake Out off. Does it have anything else? I don't think so. But it's a 1-pointer, so who really cares? Like, I think it's got Foul Play. I think it's got Knockoff. Like, it's got Snarl. So it's got some stuff, I guess, but it's not really anything worth writing home about. But yeah, that's the team, really. So we'll just quickly go through it again. So Ursaluna, Iron Hands, Mimikyu, Larry, Jumpluff. Oh my god, I can't believe I did that. Oh, I'm so sorry to everyone. All 3 of you who are watching. Fuck, I can't believe I messed that up. Like, by that I mean Jumpluff, Larry David. Oh god. Oh god, anyway. Copperaja Hatchram. I did it again! What the fuck is wrong with me? Martintelian, Birdia, Reboot, Swalot, and Nuzleaf. Let's just ignore my awful layouting of this whole thing. But look, I think this team overall is really interesting. I don't know if it's really strong or really bad. I'm leaning towards really strong. Really, it just kind of relies on, like, I think people have spoken about them on week 2 in person, and I don't think they're wrong necessarily, but I also think that this team's just kind of good enough to not actually necessarily need Trick Room off the lead. I think that I've bought enough hitters that I can actually function in other modes or, you know, surprise people, that sort of thing, but really it's just going to depend on how I play it, and knowing me, I won't be playing it very well. Anyway, that was the video. I'm having to stop myself from yawning constantly, so I should probably end it here. Remember to like, share, subscribe, send this video to your favorite coworker and your least favorite coworker, and tell them that, you know, I don't know, like, next time you're doing a presentation for school or for work, just put this video on, like the whole video, and that's the presentation. It would be really funny when they got up to this point. I think there'd be one giggle. Yeah, so I definitely recommend that. And that's about it, so bye. You know, what confuses me most about VGC, and it's not what Pokemon are viable, it's not the moves that aren't viable in singles, it's the name. The Video Game Championships. Like, what's the deal with that name? Does that mean I'm the champion of all video games if I win Pokemon? You know, if I win a few regionals, does that mean I get to walk into a game studio and have them worship me? You know, like, I'm the champion of video games, I get to, you know, worship me and I'll decide. Like, of course not! It would be ridiculous! And besides, you know, VGC, they've had Hulk Hogan as a special guest commentator before, right? Hulk Hogan. I don't think anything heavily involved with Hulk Hogan can be taken seriously. And you know what the worst thing is? I can't think of a good zinger to end this on. I'm just gonna have to rely on the laugh track to make myself seem funny. Good night, everyone.